It's the 5th of March 2018. I'm here today at Leake Cricket Club. I'm David Jenkins, and today I'm talking to
Malcolm Tweats
and Brian Tatton.
Thank you very much for hosting us today. We wanted to talk about some of the players that have played for Leake over the years and the ones that have impressed you, and we want to move on this time to bowlers. So in terms of perhaps ones you've played with or who you see as the best bowlers ever to play at this club?
In my opinion, the best bowler was a man called Fred Boulton, who died a few years ago, aged 96. He was a very unusual sort of person, very quiet, well within himself, but he got over 2,000 wickets for Leake Cricket Club in all cricket. He was a medium or slow medium in swing bowler, massive in swing, but could also use the cut as well. And in my opinion, he was the very best that we've had.
So he would have played here between the wars?
He played for Staffordshire and Leake in 1938, right, prior to the Second World War. And then I think about 1940 he was taken prisoner, and he spent 4.5 years in a prison camp before he came back to Leake and started to play again with one of our, in fact, the most successful professional that we've had is Bert Shardlow, and he played with Bert Shardlow. And Leake's opening attack, contrary to what everybody expects, was a slow left armer, Bert Shardlow, for Leake and Staffordshire and minor counties, and Fred Boulton, slow right arm. And we won the championship in 1947, and I think we came runners-up in 3 more years as well. And Fred was very instrumental in that, and nobody else in my lifetime since the Second World War has taken 500 wickets, and Fred's got 4 times that.
The interesting thing about Fred Boulton was he was a prisoner of war in a camp in Austria.
Yeah.
And he wrote a letter to Stan Hutchinson, who was the secretary here for 50 years. He wrote a letter to Stan saying that he feared he'd never see his beloved Highfield again, that he loved this ground and it meant so much to him, but he feared that he probably wouldn't be getting back here again. Yeah. There you are, he came back. He played first team cricket. I played in the second team when Fred was bowling, and he knew it. I said to Fred, I bet you've got 5 for about 20 now, Fred. He said, I've got 6 for 18. Yeah. He knew exactly what he got at any time.
We had a situation which backs up what Malcolm was saying about Fred. We're playing at Silverdale, and Leake were batting second. We had a pro, I forget Brian Clump's dad, Stan Crump, was the pro, and Brian was 18, and he said just the 1 season for Leake before he went to first class, Brian. And there's another one I've missed off my list. But the match, I think the scores were 176 all out, Silverdale, and Leake wanted 6 to win with 2 balls to go. And I was lucky enough to be the batsman who was receiving the last ball or last 2 balls. And I managed, I know it sounds horrible to say, but I managed to hit the 6 that won the match. So we came off the field, and everybody was clapping and saying, yes, well done. We were getting changed, no showers in those days at Silverdale, and our scorer was called Norman Knott, came in and said, I'm sorry lads, but there's been a problem with the scoreboard. We haven't actually won. It's a tie. Oh, and Fred said, let me have a look at the scorebook. So Julie came in with the scorebook, looked at his analysis. Mine is wrong. I haven't conceded 37 runs, I've only conceded 35. And of course, nothing was done about it at the time, except the books were sent off to the league to be analysed. Fred was right, we'd won the game. And every match, it was just the same. He knew before the scorers what his analysis was.
The other Fred at about the same time would be Fred Taylor.
Fred Taylor.
I never seen Fred. I've played with Fred Boulton, but I never saw Fred Taylor. But he must have been one hell of a bowler.
Fred Taylor was, I can tell you a story about Fred Taylor. He got 550 something against the, was it 1953 Australian side? And he played for Warwickshire before the war, but he never went into the war because something to do with his fallen arches in his feet or something silly, and he spent his time at Oakamore in whatever he was doing. But in the later years, and Fred must have been about 44 or 45, he set up a team to play Sunday cricket for charity. And I've already mentioned Roy Jackson, who played for us medium quick left arm, and myself as right arm. And we had all sorts of cricketers playing for Fred's team, and some of the names elude me now, but anyway, we were playing at Nottingham, and Nottingham was playing on this ground, slightly sloping up like that, and they had a good side. Two of their players, first team players, who were coming back from injury, so it's a strong side, and Roy Jackson bowled from the top end, and I bowled from the bottom end. And they were sort of 30 odd for none off about 6 or 7 overs. And Fred came up to me and he said, "Brian, have a go at the top end, I'm coming on at this end." Now I'd been bowling quite quickly, and I was getting the ball up at the most about this high. And I'm in my 20s. And Fred comes on, same height as me, first ball with that action like that, it was up there like that. And he finished up bowling 4 or 5 overs because he wasn't used to bowling really, and got 3 wickets for hardly anything. And I thought to myself, I'm nowhere near his class, and he's twice as old as me. And I've never forgotten that, because it was so unusual. I mean, when they bowled, they couldn't get the ball up at all, but Fred Taylor could. He was
and then
wonderful.
there was another Taylor here, a bowler, Bill Taylor.
Bill
Taylor, yeah.
Bill.
Yeah.
Bill, we were looking for a quick bowler for a pro,
Yeah.
and the Sunday people had run a competition to unearth the best, most promising young quick bowler in the country, and a young lad who was a printer, an apprentice printer in Manchester, Bill Taylor, won this thing.
Yeah.
And on the strength of that, because we'd never seen him, I have to say, on the strength of that, the club offered him a contract. And he came here and played for us. You'll remember the years when he was here.
Well,
it was definitely when Sobers was playing.
Yeah, well, Mick Goddard became captain when I went to Cheadle as pro, and I went there when I was 31, so that's 1967, and Bill was here 67, 68, 69 and 70. And I played with him in that 1970 season, and then he went to Nottingham. But he was a very, very fine bowler, and as I say, he had a very successful career in cricket. Bill Taylor did.
Well, didn't he?
Yeah, very well.
We must have, this will be before Brian and my time, but every year we still present a trophy for the best senior bowling performance of that season.
Yeah.
And it's called the Jerry Pace Trophy. And Jerry Pace, a bit like Fred Boulton, took over 2,000 wickets for this club. Now, it takes a bit of doing, doesn't it? He took over 2,000 wickets. I think he was slow left arm.
He was.
In the same way that Bert Shardlett was, and Bert was from Stone, of course. And so Jerry Pace must have been a fine, fine bowler in his time. I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
And you were talking earlier about your 2 slow bowlers who opened the bowling for Leake, but you also then had similar guys, Sidney Barnes here as a coach at one
He was
point.
coach, yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he'd stopped playing,
Yes.
but he came here as the coach of this team. He wasn't here all that long, a season or a season and a half or something or other.
Yeah.
But nice that he was involved here, and I mean, he's a legend, wasn't he? Like, that's why they try and get him if he can. I gather from things that were said and recorded at the time that he wasn't the most amenable.
It was that he came at that time to our Beggars Lane ground, so he didn't come to Leake Highfield.
No.
He came to Leake Cricket Club, which was in the west end of town. And he coached that side.
Yeah, yeah. And
Be-
but he
before-
didn't ever play for the club.
No, never played for the club, no.
No, he didn't.
Before my time as well,
Yes.
would you believe?
I wonder if we can sort of wrap up the section specifically about Leake Cricket Club, Malcolm. You brought along one or two books with you, and there's one there that celebrates 150 years of
yeah,
Leake Club.
yeah.
If you could perhaps hold that up.
No, it does. These are programmes of Derbyshire games in the Staffordshire Moorlands.
Yes.
That was Derbyshire, Worcestershire at Knipersley, Derbyshire, Lancashire at Leake in 1989, and Derbyshire versus Warwickshire in 1992. So there are links there,
And the book.
yeah. 150 years old in 1994, so
Yes.
in 2019 we're 175 years old. But we had this big book here, produced, 150 years of Leake cricket. It was written by Ray Poole. Ray Poole's a local historian. Sadly, Ray's dead now. But he used to score, hadn't he? Ray's dad used to score for the side, and then Ray did some scoring for the side. And he wrote this book, and we were very lucky that Ray would do it. It was produced, printed locally, and I'm the chap who proofread it and everything else like. And we did what we did with the Tom Tipper book. Tom Tipper wrote a book, 80 Years of League Cricket, from 1844, and that went out to subscribers. People had to subscribe, and we did exactly the same thing here. Limited edition of 300, as that one was back then, 1924. And there's the name of all the people that subscribed to this book. They were £25 at the time, and we had a few left over, and the local bookshop said, I'll buy those off, he said, because they'd be worth more than £25 a bit later on. But at the same time, we did a sort of abridged version thing, and we used some different photographs in here, and we used Colin Cowdery did a foreword for us, and on the front of there, that's one of the Derbyshire games at Leake Cricket Club. And when you look at it now, although we got the new score box, we had the old pavilion at that time. Yeah, and they were always well attended. These games were.
And in 1994, did you have any other celebrations?
We had England ladies played cricket here, wasn't it? They played a game here, and then we had an open invitation to all people who'd played for the club to come along, and we had a fabulous array of old players coming in.
It was, for myself personally, I met a lot of players that I'd played with in 1954, would you believe, that I didn't even know existed anymore, and it was a wonderful day, a lot of players playing in those successful sides. A lot of people weren't there. Bert Shardlow'd already passed away, for example. Fred Boulton was there, all sorts of Pat Charnock and a lot of players. And at this moment in time, unfortunately, there's only myself and one other player that's still alive from those cricketing days. And his name is Stan Walters, and he is in an old people's home somewhere down south. And the reason I know that is because his great niece still lives in Leake, and I bump into her occasionally.
Stan's in South Wales. Stan is.
Yes.
I was just going to say, how did Derbyshire come to play here? Because when they first came to play here, I left. I was playing elsewhere. I came back in 1990 when Bob Lark was the chief exec at Derby then, and then I got involved in staging them. But I bet they'd already staged two, I think, before then, certainly Derbyshire Warwickshire game before then. And I think we got involved because Staffordshire Moorlands District Council were keen to encourage, there must have been someone sitting on the council, keen to encourage first-class cricket in the area.
That's exactly what happened.
And they made, I think it was a sum of £5,000 available for if Derbyshire would come and play.
Right.
And they played at Nipus Leek Cricket Club, which is in the Moorlands area, and Leake Cricket Club. And later they played at probably Cheadle and certainly Chackley. I can remember them playing at Chackley. Although probably most games have been hosted here, only because we're lucky that it's such a big area and we can get lots of cars on and so on. And I think that's how it came about.
Yes.
And we did develop a relationship with Derbyshire County Cricket Club. Sadly, they haven't been for a while. And I say sadly for us, because it is difficult when you stage them, because we don't have the facilities or the grounds equipment at Derby, though Neil at Derby helps us out a good deal. But sadly, first class cricket isn't in the area again, and that link with Derbyshire just seems to have
it made a big impact. I never really saw much of the games because I was on the top lawn there, taking the people's passes and taking money and stuff like that. But it made a big difference playing cricket up here. From the last celebrity we had up here was Red Rum, the horse.
Really?
yes, he was up here. Red Rum was, yes.
And what was Red Rum doing?
Well, he was brought by his trainer, and we had a.
This is Arthur Fisher's doing this.
Yes, this is
Arthur Fisher was then the president, I think, of the club, and. We used to have this thing, a donkey derby. It was a fundraiser here, and it was a regular thing. And
Six
it did
donkey races.
It was a regular thing for a number of years.
And then Red Rum decided to come.
Well, Arthur Fisher saw Ginger McCain,
was the trainer.
Arthur followed racing, and he's seen him at Haydock, and Arthur's just gone over to him and said to him, Ginger, he said, any chance, listen, is there any chance we could have Red Rum up at Leake Cricket Club for the... And Ginger McCain, this is absolutely true, and I've got photographs. Ginger McCain said to him, well, it's funny you should say that, he said, because we're about to retiring, and there's myself, his owner and a solicitor, and we're going to go into partnership, the three of us, where he goes out and opens fates and so on. He said, but we haven't even done a contract for it yet, so let's call this a practice do at Leake Cricket Club. He said, this will be good practice to see how it works. I'll speak to the other two involved and see if they agree. They did, and Arthur paid for Red Rum to come that day, £1,000. He gave it to Ginger McCain, and Red Rum came up here with his jockey. Actually, not his jockey, it was the chap who... It was the stable hand who looked after him, but he got all the colours on and everything, got the proper gear on, and we had a magnificent crowd. It was a massive crowd here because he'd won the 3 Grand Nationals, and there he was at Leake Cricket Club. Marvellous.
bit different than cricket.
Well, the lad who won the Grand National on Aldenity.
Yes.
Bob Champion.
Thank you, Bob Champion. Spoke in this. He was the first speaker we had in here when this was opened in 2001. He was the first chap we ever had here, and I wondered how we'd go on with this. Particularly when he said to me when he got here, he said, "This is the first time I've done this." And I said, oh, that's interesting. He said, but he met Mick Fox, who's a member here, and Mick was suffering from the same thing Bob Champion had suffered from, and he was actually quite inspirational, I thought, wasn't he? It was, again, sometimes good to have people who are not connected with cricket, not cricket stories, but racing stories, or in Barry McGuigan's case, boxing stories.
Well, thank you very much indeed for those memories, both cricketing and horses.
It makes a change, doesn't it?
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you as well. Thank you very much.